Bird of Prey 5. El Karuga.
Kapla!
I'm going to take this opportunity, however, to suggest that we all hail Karuga. That's all I'm saying.
Forgive me, Doctor. I'm receiving a number of distress calls. I don't doubt it.
Y'all remember to tip your waitresses. Have a mighty fine night.
If you come in peace, surrender or be destroyed. If you're here to make war, we surrender.
Both good. The important thing is I'm meeting new people.
When the appointed hour arrives, the Marauders will deactivate their cloaking devices and begin transporting Klingon shock troops directly to the landing zone.
Landing zone? Where? Tell me.
Why not? Your feeble weapons will be useless against us. We will kill all your males and take your females to mate with.
All right. Now the Federation's taking over, whether you like it or not. You people, you've been running this planet like a piecework factory. From now on, it's gonna be under one roof. You're gonna run it like a business. And that means you're gonna make a profit.
Look at these 3 words written larger than the rest, with a special pride never written before or since. Tall words, proudly saying, "We the people."
Hi, I'm Nicole DeBoer. I played Lieutenant Ezri Dax on DS9, and I welcome you to Bird o' Prey 5 channel. Hail Karoga.
Hello world, it's Bird o' Prey 5, Kapla, and welcome to Bed Life for Friday, May 31st, 2024. Wow, May 31st. Seems like a day that shouldn't even exist. Like May 30th just feels like should be the end of the month. I always feel weird when there's a 31st day of May. But it is what it is. Anyway, welcome all. Richie Poole first in the chat today. Welcome, Richie. And Richie Poole puts in a single alpaca and asks, more dirt from Birds Pass. And LDG says, howdy, y'all. Howdy, LDG. And John Aragi says, bed fights. Been a while since the Hillrom Black Alert went off. Knocking wood, John Araki. No, yeah, we do need to get Hillrom back here, but not today. And Captain Fandom Nerd says, hello, Captain. And John Araki with a 99-cent Super Poop Super Sticker. Thank you so much, John. And he says, hashtag cancel Hillrom, hashtag Kroners, hashtag Mamopray 2024. Mamopray, this is another year, and Mamopray is definitely doing her job, going above and beyond, and we'll need the support of everybody as we work to set up the workers to
They're called
personal assistance. The personal assistance that will be helping take over Mamopré's job to not taking over, to substitute to hopefully take the pressure off Mama Pray by having some people substitute their time for Mama Pray for taking care of me from here on out, so that Mama Pray can get some time off and we can get some coverage for Mama Pray. Now, the good thing is I was approved for full 24/7 coverage. The bad thing is that I was approved for full 24/7 coverage, and it's up to me to find the people who can work those hours, and it's a tough bill. Now, Mama Pray is one of them, so she can only do 40 hours a week. And Yvette, the lovely Yvette, with a £2 sterling super chat, says we all need kissing Dax, but instead you got the usual, it's a fake. It's a fake. I'm so sorry, Yvette, but thank you so much. Rock Solid Productions, who I believe is on a road trip at the moment, says hashtag Dear Bob, hashtag dump a certain political person, hashtag we are screwed, hashtag DeSantis 2028. Professor Brainy Specs says Kapla Birdo Pray 5. So Bird's confession is he secretly loves Discovery and Tilly most of all, because as you see, I still have the confessions thumbnail set up. And Professor Brainy Specs, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Professor Brainy Specs. Where she says, thank you, Bird. Of course, that's not enough. I must sing you happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Professor Brainy Specs. Happy birthday to you. And many, many more. Yay, Professor Brainy Specs. Happy birthday. And also from Mama Pray. Mama Pray yelled across the house to make sure I included her too. Professor is an amazing guy, a great co-host of various Star Trek based YouTube games, and this is not rigged. This is not rigged in any way in an attempt to win more games, but he's also a big part of Mama Pray's day with his Wordle clues. The Traveler, using a 43-month Kurogan Orphan Super Chat, says, I don't want it to be June. Can we skip and make it July?
No.
No, Mama Pray's crying at that. No, we need it June. And Rock Solid with a 44-month Kurogan Orphan Super Chat, 1 month longer than The Traveler, says, I see The Traveler and raise his 43 months with 44. Wow. Impeccable timing for Rock Solid. And Professor Brainy Specs says thank you to Mom Will Pray. The Traveler says, I don't like June. Let's skip it and make it July. Professor Brainy Specs thanks Captain Phantom Nerd. And the Multi-Gunman says, did Birdo Prey 5 just saying he was trying to rig contests? No, I'm not trying to rig anything. And the Traveler says, darn you, Rock Solid. You are my enemy now. That's what happens when you try to take an extra month. You wanna outdo the Traveler by a month. Be prepared to face the wrath of the Traveler. And Richie Poole with a 21-month friend of Kuroga super chat says, for the Traveler, I declare tomorrow to be May 32nd. Shut up, Wesley. So tomorrow is no longer June 1st. It is May 32nd. The Traveler says Birdo Prey 5 is because there are too many rainbows in June. And Roxanne says, the Traveler, I love you, my brother. I hope you and yours are amazing. And Professor, thanks so much, 47 Yorktown. And Arabic Sandra says, no way I get the month of June off work. Awesome. Professor Brainy Specs says kapla to me. And he said, so Bird's Confession is a secretly loved discovery. And Tilly, most of all, Richie Poole says Bird's underlying love for Tilly is no secret. Arabic Saunders says kapla to Birdo Prey 5. Live long and prosper. Live long and prosper. Arabic. And he also says, hail to Professor Brainy Specs. Yvette says, good evening, Bird, and everyone. Good evening to the lovely Yvette. Mike Richards says, greetings from Columbus, Ohio. Greetings, Mike Richards. Arabic Saunders says, happy birthday to the professor. And everything jumps. Mike Richards says, greetings from Columbus, Ohio. Yes. Richie Poole says, your feeble weapons will be useless against us. Rock Solid says, greetings while I'm on the road to Columbus, Ohio. There you are. So are you gonna meet up with Mike Richards? At least wave to him as you drive by. Professor Brainy Specs says greetings to Mike Richards. Resolute Germ says hello, Resolute. Yvette says happy birthday to Professor. Daniel's Hot Topic says hello, Daniel. Mike Richards says hello and happy birthday to Professor Brainy Specs. Jedi Bill, kapla, Jedi Bill. Says kapla, Brother Warrior, Birdo Prey 5. All should hail Kuroga. Absolutely. 47 Yorktown says hello, young sir. Thank you, 47. Professor Brainy Specs says how you are so kind. Thank you to Yvette and thank you to Mike. Jedi Bill says happy birthday, Professor. Rock Solid says, is Birdo Prey 5 muted? The Traveler says, greetings, birds, turds, and nerds. Professor Brainy Specs says, thank you so much to Jedi Bill. The Multi-Gunman says, May 31st, 2024, a day that shall live in Kurogan infamy. And then the Multi-Gunman says, Bird. Welcome, Multi-Gun Man. Daniel's Hot Topics is wow. Star Trek Discovery is finally over. Yes, Daniel, it is. And I watched it, and I have a stunning confession to make in just a couple minutes. The Travelers is May 31st is the best day of the year because it's one more day that's not June. The Multi-Gunman says, Bird, hey Bird, how's it going? It's going well, Multi-Gun Man. And Multi-Gun says, the Daniel's Hot Topics, thank God and amen to that. Professor Brainy Specs says, greetings to Mom Oakray. She says, thank you. The Travelers is Bird Oakray 5. What? Discovery is over. I still haven't really seen any of it. Well, then I envy you, the Traveler. Captain Fandom Nerd with a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Captain. And he says, hail on Karoga. Because of course he does. So thank you, Captain Fandom Nerd. Yeah, consider yourself lucky if you haven't seen any of it, Traveler. Multi-Gun Man says, Professor Brainy Specs, what's new? Are you here to celebrate the end of Star Trek Discovery of shit? Because I sure am, lol. Professor Brainy Specs says, may Discovery rust in peace and then be erased from history. Multi-Gun Man says 110% agrees. Professor Brainy Specs, the Multi-Gun Man, it's my birthday, a reason to celebrate a second day in a row. That is awesome. Multi-Gun Man says, Professor Brainy Specs, happy birthday. Jedi Bill says, I hope you had a wonderful party and weekend. To Professor Brainy Specs, who says thank you to the Multi-Gun Man. And Captain Phantom Nerd gives a happy birthday to Professor. And Rock Solid says, yes, currently on I-70, heading east, 100 miles from Dayton, Ohio. 100 miles from Dayton. I've been to Dayton, and I've been through Ohio, so I feel like I've probably been on that road at some part in my life. And Captain Phantom Nerd Super Chat went through, finally. Thank you again, Captain. Professor Brainy Specs says, thanks to me, lol. The Multi-Gun Man says, Bird Oakray 5 for President of the USA, and Mom Oakray for President of Earth. Yes. Well, we would make better options than what we've seen. The Traveler with a 43-month Perogan Orphan super chat. I read that. I don't want it to be June. Can we skip and make it July? Not Captain. Professor Brainy Specs says thank you to Mama Pray. The Traveler says, I don't like June. Let's skip it and make it July already. So you want to just skip June, go right to July. We need our June, Traveler. We got a lot of stuff to do this month. Professor Brainy Specs says, thank you, Captain Phantom Nerd. The Multi-Gun Man says, did Berto Frey say he was trying to rig contests? No. 47 Yorktown says hello, says happy birthday, Bona Feti, to Professor Brainy Specs. I don't know what that second one is. Bona Feti. And I jumped and I lost. I lost completely where I was. How far? How far can I be? Happy birthday. President of Earth. That was, there we go. The traveler says, bird is because there are too many rainbows in June. Was it like literally rainbows? Or because June is a rainbow pride month? Rock Solid says to the traveler, I love you, my brother. I hope you are and yours are amazing. Professor Brainy Specs says thank you so much to 47 Yorktown. And Arabic Sonder says, no way, get the month of June. I got the month of June off work. The traveler says the whole month of June off. And he says he wants Saunders' job. Now, it sounds like most teachers, I would imagine, get month of June off. Although New York teachers, our school goes well into June. So maybe it's some other school system where, like in Florida, they're already out. The Travelers is Birdo Prey 5. I have to finish some work. Will lurk. No worries, Traveler. No worries. And Captain Phantom Nerds, with 3 likes, hashtag Hail on Karoga super chat. Rock Solid says just crossed into the OIO, the O10, OH10, but that's Ohio. Arabic Sonder says hello to Captain Phantom Nerd. And Mike Richards says, I'll warn the population. So that's a solid thing you're doing, Mike Richards. It's like Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. Mark Richards is warning the people that Rock Solid is entering the greater Columbus area. Captain Phantom Nerd says hey to Arabic Sonder. Professor Brainy Specs says thank you to Jedi Bill. Daniel's Hot Topic says, so right now they are showing a Godzilla marathon on YouTube, and it's so nostalgic. How do they do a marathon on YouTube? And just click and watch any part of it you want? I don't know. Words and pictures. This got Blabberto Prey 5. Good to hear you. Good to be here. Got words and pictures. Good for you to be here and good to be heard. Good to be heard. The Travelers is Birdo Prey 5. I watched, in quotes, the first 2 seasons of STD with Salty on a watch party. I was drinking a lot, and I don't remember anything past the pilot. Well, that's fine, Traveler. If you want a quick refresh of what happened in Star Trek Discovery, Um, the first episode, Michael Burnham got posted to the USS Discovery. She ended up committing mutiny, and she ended up getting arrested. And then in what was kind of the second pilot, she is being transferred from I don't know, one prison to another, and she doesn't understand why, but she is getting sprung from prison and brought to the USS Discovery as a one-time expert for their deeply undercover experimental jump drive, and nobody knew why or how or what the jump drive was about. I still don't understand why she was there. What was she really needed for? At some point along the way, this was when they weren't sure how the jump drive was supposed to work, but they had to grab a creature, and it turned out it was a giant space tardigrade, and the space tardigrade somehow, I don't know, I'm still not sure how it left its DNA. It mixed its DNA with Paul Stamets' DNA, who's a doctor, who's a gay doctor on the Discovery, but somehow him and the tardigrade kind of mixed their DNA, and so he's able to talk to the mushrooms. I'm not, this isn't even a joke. This is legit. And so he became able to, the only human ever in history to be able to communicate with mushrooms. And he could now he could sail the mushroom network. And yeah, this is based on the theory that there's mushroom networks that grow under the forests of trees. And William Shatner himself was talking about this just a couple of weeks ago, about how this mycelial network has existed and exists in forests from centuries ago, and why even if you replant the trees today, they're not going to live as long as they would have in the past, because there's no forest built up. This network doesn't exist, and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Daniel's Hot Topics with Bird of Prey 2029 will be a glorious year indeed. Rocks out is Mike Richards, One Planks Pizza. I think that's where a bunch of us are headed tonight. The Traveler says, I like waking up with, it's like waking up in a bed with Tilly and asking, who the F are you? Captain Fandom Nerd says to Captain, says to Arabic Sonder, any plans for your month off work? anything fun or just relaxing. Tor Bull says, is Bird still 5 years behind in the chat? I don't know about 5 years, but we're catching up. Daniel's Hot Topics says Godzilla vs. Megalon is on now. 47 Yorktown says, and tomorrow is the first day of June bug season. Oof. Mike Richards says the Rock Solid Productions will do. Drive carefully. Arabic Sanders says, no, you don't. Trust me. Hakeem says, June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Torbull says, I heard Bird eats June bugs. Rock Solid says, wait a second. I thought the Traveler likes Discovery. Legit, not a joke. Nobody likes Discovery, Rock Solid. Richie Fool says, is Bird going to recap every episode of STD for the Traveler? If he asks for it. Arabic Sonder says, lots of plans. Captain Fandom Nerd. Pride Fest. Renaissance Fair. Road trip home to Texas. And lots more in July. Professor Brainy Specs says, do we need to relive this? Only, not anymore. Not anymore. The Travelers with Bird of Prey 5, honest question. If someone put aside caring about canon, about one character being near God's skills at every and other issues like that, if you get past those things, is Discovery worth a watch? No, it's not worth the watch. The Traveler, that's the thing. Discovery is a fractal of shit. And by what that means is that any small piece you look at is as bad as it could possibly be. And it just gets worse. Anything you find, it's worse on all levels. It's, if you zoom in into one little segment, it's all wrong. If you zoom out and take it as a whole, it's still all wrong. Bless you, Mother Frey. There is no place, there is nowhere to issue any points for Star Trek Discovery. And once you start talking about this ain't so bad, or that's not so bad, no, you're wrong. It is bad. There's no saving grace. And Pop Culture Curator with a 34-month Rogan Orphan Super Chat says, Kafla Bird, I hope you are well. I hope you are well, Pop. I hope you are well. Professor Brainy Specs says he thinks Rox has learned the error of his ways. Poor Bull says, I wouldn't want my worst enemy to relive Discovery. Professor Brainy Specs agrees, no. The Traveler says, listening to Bird recap STD. Are you high on something? Roxanne says to the Traveler, I'd rather watch TOS. And you know how my loathing of that show. Hakeem says, when you explain STD, it sounds nuts that it lasted this many seasons without being canceled. Hakeem, believe me, it sounds nuts to me that it lasted this long without being canceled, to the point that I have to check myself, wonder, is there something wrong with me? What did I mess up? But all I can think about is I think And the reality is, no, I didn't screw this up. Everyone else is wrong, or everyone who thinks Discovery is great is wrong. There is no good way to talk off Discovery. It doesn't make any sense. Rockstar says, I thought Joseph did like disco, though, at least the early seasons. If you mean Joseph, he seemed to be okay with the early seasons. You are correct. But I think now that he's had reality of being a parent, of limited awake time, that maybe, just maybe, he's starting to see the light. But I have to ask him if and when he gets it. Hakeem says, no, that's what I just read. Daniel's Hot Topic says, Star Trek Discovery would have been largely accepted if number one, Discovery would have been set in the year 2409 or 2410, the early 25th century. And number two, there would have been it would have explained Klingons different. Well, yes, that would have been one. One major assist would have been for Discovery to take place in the future after Berman Trek, after the events of Voyager, sometime after the events of Voyager, which would have been after the wars and after the events last shown in the movies. So whatever would, forward the timeline, maybe something in the schedule, like something before the end of All Good Things, but following along with the actual timeline sometime after Voyager got home, but before the events at the end of All Good Things. That would have been a wonderful place to get started. And, in my head canon, even though Captain Picard never got the exact illness he got in All Good Things, we just assume that is generally where society was ending up anyway, with what we saw in All Good Things in the future. So there's no reason to think that anything that didn't have to do with Picard wouldn't have come to fruition. Daniel's Hot Topics says they could have said the Klingons started doing eugenics development experiments, and the Klingons that were experimented on turned into super hyper violent Klingons we saw in Discovery season 1 and 2. Pop Culture Curator says, I hope I am well. Thank you, Pop. That was a 24-month 34 months super chat. Professor Brainy Specs says, Rocks, I think he learned the error of his ways. Daniel's Hot Topic says, hi to Pop. Daniel says, how's it going, Pop? Rainy Specs. Wow, Rock Solid Productions says, okay, but am I misremembering? The Traveler says, if you put it aside the shit, Discovery is okay. Or no, there is just more shit. That is true. Captain Fandom Nerd says the Daniel's Hot Topic. There is no chance I would have accepted STD and no way to explain the Klingors. None. Pop Culture Curator says, hail the Daniel's Hot Topics. I'm good and thanks. Torval says, I stopped watching STD after the baby head decapitation event. Oh, that was season 1. Pop Culture Curator says, how many years did it take to produce those 5 seasons? Well, it came to TV at the end of 2017. So let's say all of 2018, all of 2019, all of 2020, all of 2021, all of 2022. Oh my God, that's already 5 years. All of 2023, 6 years, and we're into 2024. So 7 years. 5 years on, and possibly as much as 3 years off. If it counts, 2024, 2025, if it counts, we could have 2 more seasons that they could possibly add to Discovery. Melted Copper's in the house. Apply Melted Copper. Rock Solid says, Bird, one thing I'd legit like answered is whether control was related to the Borg. So much pointed that way. I would say not, Rock Solid. Things might have pointed that way, but we got 0 physical confirmation that anything the Borg did. In fact, one of the solid things we did get is that the Borg were unrelated. The Borg were unrelated to Discovery. Of all the things Discovery decided to leave out, perhaps on purpose, was any Borg interference. I think they realized that the Borg are a full-time job, and nobody was up to dealing with the Borg in either Discovery or any of the future Discovery junk series that are coming up. So I think and in that respect, we're good. Rockstar says, okay, am I misremembering? And Arabic Sonder with a $1 super chat. Thank you so much, Arabic Sonder. The Traveler says, me, if you put me side the shit, is Discovery okay? No, not according to me. Captain Phantom Nerd says the Daniel's Hot Topic. There is no chance I would have accepted STD and no way to explain the Klingors. None. Pop Culture Curator says, hail to Daniel's Hot Topics. I'm good and thanks. Torbull says, I stopped watching STD after the baby decapitated event. Pop Culture Curator says, how many years did it take to produce those 5 seasons? And it was Melted Copper. Resolute. Rockstar Productions and Bird of Prey 5. One thing I'd like legit answer is whether Control was related to the board. That's right, I skipped. I read that already, and I would say no. There was no actual evidence the Borg had anything to do with Control. Arabic Saunders is in July's Comic-Con. In July, it's Comic-Con time. So maybe a road trip north to Wyoming and South Dakota, because I've never been. Oh, that's very cool, Arabic. But Comic-Con is San Diego. So, I mean, I know it's a beautiful drive, but that is a long drive from the Dakotas to San Diego. JP says, I just ate some gas station cheeseburgers. Mistake. Oh, how big of a mistake could it be, JP's? Rock Solid Productions says, I also think that many people complaining about the ending of Voyager, where you never get to see the crew at home, is one of the reasons you had such a long epilogue for Discovery. To be honest, Rock Solid, it wasn't that long of an epilogue. The only people we get to see at home are Michael Burnham and her husband. We don't really get to see what happened to any else in the crew. We get to see Saru at his wedding, but that's it. That's it. Daniel's Hot Topics. Did you see the series finale of Discovery? Yes, Daniels. Yes, I did. And this is the time to ask any questions. Cinnabon Bunny says, hello, Cinnabon. And this is a heads up for people. There are going to be Discovery spoilers. So if you have yet to see the final episode of Discovery and you are worried about spoilers, you probably want to tune out. For whatever spoilers there can be. Obviously, I don't really think you can spoil Discovery, but and you know, I debated yesterday if the thumbnail I should use for my final episode of Discovery. Now it's not the uploaded episode, but I just needed to talk about it. So the thumbnail that went up yesterday, yes, it's true. It does kind of put some spoilers up because it's an image that appears on the screen later in the episode, and I guess that just by putting it on, that it was, you know, it kind of sucked, because if you had not watched Discovery and you were just trying to avoid what was going on, then yes, it breaks spoilers. But on the other hand, the reality is I only believe there's a few hundred people watching this show, legit watching this show. And a lot of people are going to bitch and complain about it. If anything, just to see if they could ever figure out how many people are watching it. So I get it. But yeah, the fact that nobody's complaining that I did this thumbnail and God knows who else doing thumbnails and taking for granted that people don't care or don't want to care about what's gone on. It makes no sense. Anyway, I was going to apologize for it and not thinking of, but I did think, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. It's a shame. Rock Solid says also, when the hell was Agent Daniels on the USS Enterprise? The NX-01 was not the USS Enterprise. Yeah, Rock Solid, I agree. That was one of my biggest pet peeves. I was going to come on and bitch about it. However, I thought about it, and I'm wondering, and I know there's two things. First, and unfortunately, there was one episode in Star Trek Enterprise where they referred to the NX-01 as the USS Enterprise. Now, it didn't happen in audio. It wasn't in the script. But there was an image on one of the screens in the episode where they had to match the warp drive with the Columbia, where they had to merge the warp bubble so that Trip could transfer from the Columbia to the Enterprise or something like that. And for whatever reason, they couldn't use the transporter. He had to use a rope between the two ships. Anyway, in one of the images, they actually had it listed as USS Enterprise, although they had USS as United Earth Starship. So why would you? It didn't make any sense that United Earth Starship would be briefed as USS, but they did. So that was probably a mistake. So I'm willing to agree that the Enterprise, the NX-01, was never the USS Enterprise. But then the other option is that Daniels really was based off of a future Enterprise. Like maybe Daniels, I have the feeling that maybe Daniels' official post was to the Enterprise J. And if that's true, then he was from the USS Enterprise J. And that would be why he called himself from the USS Enterprise. Because it really doesn't make any sense that he would have considered himself from the NX-01, because the NX-01 was clearly just one mission of his. It wasn't his home base. And maybe the J was his home base, but I'm not sure. There's no way to know, rock solid, whether it's him just screwed up or what. The other thing was at the end, the Discovery was able to jump. The Discovery was able to jump without Stamets. It was just Michael Burnham. The only people on the Discovery was Michael Burnham and the computer, and the ship was able to jump away with just Michael Burnham and the computer. Now, it had been 30 years of them in the future, so it makes sense that at some point, as in the future, they would figure out a way. Stamets was saying it was just a matter of time before they figured out how to travel without him. So I totally get it that by that time, they could travel without Paul Stamets. But I'm surprised they didn't give it a little more lip service so that there wasn't debate. Because right now people are debating whether Stamets was on the ship, or did they forget that? Did Michael Burnham forget? Or did the writers forget that they needed Stamets? And let's face it, the writers have been so poor these last 5 seasons that I could totally believe that they fucked up and they forgot they needed somebody on the ship for a black alert. And well, that's on them. It's on them, unfortunately. Like, I'm okay with giving them the benefit of the doubt that was just the fact that, you have to assume your audience. And for Star Trek in the past, it's always been okay to assume your audience had at least a couple of intelligence points, and that, you did not have to connect every dot, right? Like, especially for a series finale, that would be perfectly okay to just assume technology progresses and what used to be impossible is now routine, without having to hold the hand of the audience and make a comment about every single thing. But considering its Discovery, and it's never been particularly good at holding canon or keeping the canon in itself, it probably would have been good for them to specifically mention something in dialogue, that this is how you remember it. This is Star Trek of old. This is a cerebral show, and not just Mikey Burnham fights space pirates, pew, 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 and and what we do see, which is exactly that. And that is my confession, by the way. Confession, deep confession here. Star Trek Discovery, is it as bad as I thought it was all these years? Yes. Yes, it was. JP says some of those years don't count because of lazy ass unions. Richie Poole says Daniels was on the Enterprise J. That's what I'm talking about, Richie. That Daniels says Enterprise because he was from the Enterprise J. And Richie Poole says presumably the J was a USS. Exactly. Daniel's Hot Topics says Enterprise J was glorious. And Daniel says we made it to the end of the Star Trek Discovery and a bit beyond. Go team. The Traveler says either Bird is reading chat twice or my phone is skipping backwards. Yeah, I went backwards a little, Traveler. Torbull says ditto, lol. Philip Gaming. Hello, Philip Gaming. And he says, Star Trek Discovery is finally over. It's over. It's done. Indeed, Philip. Arabic Sandra says, well, I'm going to Comic-Con first, and it's here in Denver. Same thing, just called Fan Expo here. Okay. So Fan Expo. Rock Solid Productions is Red Alert. Changelings in the chat. Philip Gaming says, did someone say San Diego? The Traveler says, fans. Well, we did. We're talking about how July is coming up, and July is Comic-Con season in San Diego. The Traveler says, fans will remember this great day in history as Discovery End Day. STDE for short. JP's says no, he said San Dimas. No, San Diego. Phil Gaming says Changeling Ali. The Traveler says San Dimas, California. Richie Poole says Arabic Sonder, stop by Devil's Tower if you go through Wyoming. That is where Paul hitches his ride home after escaping Area 51. Daniel's Hot Topic says, I liked that Kovich revealed himself to be Agent Daniels. It was a great conclusion to Enterprise. Rock Solid says Bird of Prey 5 panel discussion. Not tonight, Rock Solid. This is a bed life. Arabic Sonder says, oh yeah, that's right. Richie Poole adding to my stops. Great movie. Mike Richards says, ding dong, the disco's dead. Philip Gaming says, disco, disco, bad disco, disco, bad, bad. Torbull celebration time. STD is finally cured. JP's is most people just hate watch for sport. Lowell, however, Bird just turned into a Valley girl. Rockstar says, look at Bird becoming an apologist for Discovery. Daniel's Hot Topics says, so at the end of Discovery Season 5, there's a 50-year time skip, and Burnham and the other guy were married and had a kid. But why were they elderly? It was a measly 50 years. They have life. I don't know that it was 50 years. It's crazy is that her admiral's uniform was all part of her comm badge now. You press a button, and you're automatically dressed like a admiral in, in your fancy dress uniform. They're always ready to go out and be an admiral on the town. Arabic Saunders says, remember Book did the spore drive once. Yes, he did. So, I mean, they seem to forget. They seem to forget that Book could do the spore drive as well. Daniel's Hot Topic says, even in TNG Picard, says people live to be over 200 in that time. I think Encounter at Farpoint was in 2363. Yeah, but that was a bit of a stretch. I mean, they had McCoy. Dr. McCoy was ironically the oldest character in TOS, and he was still alive in TNG. Yet he was the first actor to actually die of the main TOS cast, which I guess because he was the oldest of the TOS cast, it wasn't too surprising that he would be the first to go. But yeah, I think in hindsight, keeping humans alive that long didn't really was a mistake. Nobody else seemed to live nearly as long who was just human. Now the Vulcans, that's fine because they're Vulcans. They're supposed to live to 200 plus years old. Arabic says, you mean Farpoint and Encounter. Sci-Fi Sit-Dan. Kapfla Sci-Fi Sit-Dan. Mike Richards says, no matter how thin you slice it, it's still bologna. I love a little thin sliced bologna. Sci-Fi Sit-Dan says, how is Mom Oprah? She is doing well, thank you. And by doing well, I mean things could be better. Things always could be better. Arabic Sanders says, used to be called Comic-Con, Colorado, but San Diego threatened to sue. Those sons of bitches. Sci-Fi Sit-Dan says, let's crack open the champagne bottle to celebrate STD being over. Rock Solid Productions says, Dear Bop, Dear Bop, Dear Bop. Dear Bop, oh, that's right. You love to wanting Dear Bop. Well, we'll see. We'll see, Rock Solid. Richie Poole wants some Dear Bop. Richie Poole says, they made Berman an admiral. I thought she'd be president of the galaxy by then. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised she didn't go that way. She didn't go into politics. But she, like many other Star Trek captains, she got her cabin in the woods. She got her cabin in the woods. It's surprising how many Star Trek alum want a cabin in the woods. I mean, Picard got his chateau in France, but, Shatner got his cabin in the woods. Jonathan Frakes got his cabin in the woods. And Cisco, he always wanted a cabin on Bajor in the woods, overlooking, the brooks and the trees and the lakes. He always said that would be his home on Bajor. We assume At some point, he will get that because he is the Cisco. But for now, he is in the celestial temple. Richie Poole says they only made Burnham an admiral. That's right. What the president. Rock Solid says, I thought it was well established in canon that Vulcans don't like being touched. As such, why did Saru and his wife hug so much? I don't know that's in canon that Vulcans don't like being touched by their mates. Daniel's Hot Topics says, but if they could keep people alive over 200 years in TNG, can you imagine how long they could live in the 32nd and 33rd century? Because life extending tech would advance. Well, what they could do, Daniel, is replace the body with an android body, because that seemed to be no big deal. I mean, they were able to create perfect biological android bodies, even as far back as the Star Trek Picard. So at the very end of the 2400s. Yeah. So the 23rd. The 23rd. By the beginning of the 24th century, at least, they should have absolute perfection over biological android bodies that could live forever and look completely human. So at that point, if anybody wanted to switch out of their defective human bodies for a body that could live forever, it could be done. It could effectively be done. So at that point, it's just like, well, you could live forever until you die from an accident. And one would wonder, what would that be when that happens? What changes would seriously happen to society when your only way of death is no longer illness or age, but only by accident? Daniel's Hot Topics. Yeah, I just read that. Hemorrhoid Hurt says, burn, STD. Good morning, Bird and chat. My chickens and bless, wish you well. And my chickens and bees wish you well. Thank you, Hemorrhoid Hurt. Arabic Sanda says, hold your horses. We still haven't gotten Google News and what national day it is. That is true. Daniel's Hot Topics says, well, technically, Michael Burnham and crew is over 1,000 years old by the end of Discovery Season 5. Post fast forward when they're in the 33rd century. Richie Poole says, Archer became president of the newly formed United Federation of Planets. I wonder if he had a cabin in the woods, too. Daniel's Hot Topics, as you know, what's upsetting is the final episode when Burnham was in the wormhole in the Paradise Planet, and it was connected to the machine. She saw the 21st century. However, I was hoping we would see more, like through the time see the NX-01 and Archer and crew, Strange New World Enterprise and crew, and finally see TOS Enterprise and crew, Shatner and crew. Hemorrhoid Turd says, effing pathetic kook Saru, what a joke of a character. I think I hate that D-head more than silly Tart Burnham. Jesus, I hate that show. Daniel's Hot Topic says, why does Track shy away from Shatner Kirk? Because they don't like him. They don't like him, Daniel. Rock Solid says, I hated the fact they swapped the progenitor. They swapped the progenitor. Oh, they race swapped? Yeah, okay, they race swapped. I get it. You could kind of see that the progenitor, that the actor who was playing the progenitor was clearly of a different race than the TNG progenitor was. But to be honest, I gave 0 fucks. 0 fucks were given about what the underlying race of the person playing the progenitor was. Because it neither does it take away from the story? No. Do we know for sure that all progenitors looked like the one we saw in TNG? No. It's perfectly valid for them to be a different race of progenitors. One would wonder where the genetic variation came from when their whole goal was to add genetic variation to the universe. So it's like it'd be surprising that they already had genetic variations, like different races, when more than likely, if that was the first time humanoid life evolved, then they would all be identical. But who knows? I'm not upset over that. Hemorrhoid Hurt says the only thing that would make me watch Burnham in a cabin in the woods is if it turned into a slasher movie. I'll get back in my box now. What we don't ever find out is what ship. So her son, and I'm surprised, honestly, I'm surprised they gave her a son and not a daughter. I figured we'd get Michael Burnham's daughter. Okay, they gave her a son, and the son would be continuing on the family legacy, and he's got a he gets a ship of his own, but we don't figure out, we never get told what ship he's assigned to. I highly doubt it's the Enterprise, but maybe it's the future Voyager or something. That would have still been worth finding out. No. As for my confession, I still hated it. I was going to joke. I was going to joke that it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be, but no, it is literally as bad as I ever imagined it, and more, and more. Star Trek Discovery continues to be as bad as I could ever have imagined it, and worse. Rock Solid says Burnham and Book's kid is going to be the captain of the Enterprise. You can't tell me that you don't expect him, the son of the greatest character ever, to not be captain of the flagship. Well, we don't know that the Enterprise is the flagship anymore. Philip Gaming says Lord of the Trek ending. I guess that's a Lord of the Rings reference to the ending, but as somebody who never watched Lord of the Rings all the way through, I do not get it. Cody Guy waves, welcome. Rock Solid says, what would you grade the entire series? I graded an F for fuck you, Alex Kurtzman. That's what I grade the entire series. Or as a scale of numbers, I graded a 0. A 0 with a hashtag, fuck you, Alex Kurtzman. It sucks. If I had to compare it to food, I would rank it somewhere below the out-of-date spam. Somewhere below the out-of-date spam. Mama Pray, save. We're ranking the Star Trek Discovery as a food. I would say it's below the out-of-date spam.
Oh,
yeah. Daniel's Hot Topic says, I hope there is a track project that will connect everything, all the tracks, and they can explain any canon errors as alternate timelines, but it's all connected like the branches of a tree. I don't know, Daniel. I think the progenitors technology that we saw in this final episode of Discovery was as close to connecting all Trek as that we'd ever get. And even them, they didn't decide to undertake that Herlerkian, the task. Herlerkian task. It means a big task, like Hercules. Herculean task. Richie Poole says, which is worse, bees or STD? It's a tough one, Richie. STD is clearly worse. Bees can only kill me. Bees can at worst kill me. STD has ruined my mind. Far more insidious Anyway, let's let's bring up oh, okay. So hey, if you guys remember, last year or so, I talked to everybody about a place called, thank you, Roxanne, Herculean. I talked to everybody about a place called the Shuttlepod Show podcast. And it was a great show. I had Dominic Keaton and Connor Trenier, Malcolm and Trip Tucker from Enterprise doing a podcast. And they were getting all great Star Trek actors. And it was really cool. And everything was going great. And then the whole fucking thing fell apart a few months ago. The producer they were using and them had a falling out, and the whole show fell apart. And the Shuttlepod Show podcast, if you're still giving money to them through their Patreon, like I had been, really you weren't getting anything for the last few months. So I finally canceled it yesterday when I became aware of the fact that I knew Dominic, I knew the two guys had left the podcast, but I thought that they were done with podcasts. As it turned out, no, they very much wanted to continue with a podcast. They just couldn't do it with the people who were currently running the old one. So what they did was they made their own podcast. And so instead of it being called the Shuttlepod podcast, it's now called the Decon Chamber. Because that was another thing that, was native to Star Trek Enterprise. Plus the D stands for Dominic and the C for Connor. And so it's Dominic and Connor, the Decon Chamber. And the website is the deconchamber.com. I put the link in the chat. You can watch it on YouTube. They have 2 episodes up already, including their very first episode with guest William Shatner. William Shatner, their very first guest. Now, before you get all excited, as I was, because William Shatner was supposed to be the next guest on Shuttlepod podcast. We were asked not to talk about it because it wasn't, we're the paid members. We knew the calendar, so we knew it was coming. We were asked not to talk about it ahead of time, because until it happened, you're never sure. And unfortunately, it all fell apart before that one ended up materializing. And so the fact that they were able to rescue it, and they started with William Shatner as the number one, had me completely flabbergasted until I watched it today. And I got to tell them, unfortunately, and I suspect, well, whatever. This William Shatner was a letdown. It was quite the letdown. I'm sure of it. I'm sure most of it is the fact that I'm sure William Shatner doesn't want to talk about the same things that we want to talk about. You know, I'm sure he's tired of talking about Star Trek. And maybe everything he knows about Star Trek has already been said, but yeah, this was a 1 hour long edited video, and I don't think there was more than 2 minutes about Star Trek mentioned at all. A lot of it was about his horses, and from the very beginning, it just, it wasn't very warm. It didn't feel warm or welcoming. And I mean, there's nobody else. There's just Connor and Dominic and the guest. They do have a picture of the new producer, but he doesn't do anything. He's just there in the studio with them, with his wife. And you know, there's no Erica, because Erica and Mark were a package deal. So I don't know. Something was missing. And then there was 2 episodes. So it was an hour long, episode 1 with William Shatner. And then the second already out episode is a little longer than an hour with Terry Farrell, Jadzia Dax. Now, I'm 50% the way through that episode, and I'll tell you, it's more interesting watching Terry Farrell than William Shatner. Granted, she hasn't talked about a whole lot of Trek just yet, but you know, let's face it, my entire life I've been watching movies and documentaries about Captain Kirk. So I just know more. So anything I know, much less do I know about Jadzia Dax or Terry Farrell's origin stories. You know, what it was like to be a model back in the day, and to cross over from being a model to a actress. So it really is a more interesting stream. Anyway, so both episodes are available to stream on YouTube, the Decon Chamber. If you go to deconchamber.com and say, go boldly with us, and you can choose to watch on YouTube or any of these other. You can watch on Amazon, on Apple. I don't know, iHeart Radio, Spotify, but YouTube is the best place. In fact, I'll put the link in for anybody who wants to subscribe. I strongly suggest subscribing to the Decon Chamber. They're at 2.59K subscribers at the moment, and they got William Shatner was 12 days ago, and Terry Farrell 5 days ago, and they're supposed to come out with a new video every week. So if you want to join their Patreon, that's up to you. I probably will. Their Patreon starts at $10. It gets you a beagle, a beagle. The Decon Chamber Patreon. You get a bronze beagle is the starting membership. These are obviously in honor of Porthos. You got your silver snouts and your gold collars, which are and I guess, platinum pours for $500 a month. Jesus Christ. That's crazy. Woof. This is the tier for patrons who want to run with the Decon dogs. Exclusive Decon Chamber coffee mug or drink koozie. Ad-free extended episodes. Thank you message. Bronze beagle. Exclusive content. Voting power. Silver snouts. Monthly drawing. Or virtual seat. Let's see. What do you get for $500 a month? The Decon Chamber cap or T-shirt. Monthly drawing for a Decon Chamber virtual seat. Associate producer credit. Personalized thank you video. Exclusive signed photo. Group Zoom call. Only with an annual plan? Oh, fuck. Gold collars tier. Website producer credit. Invitation to an in-person taping. Dinner with Dominic and Connor. And Discord channel access. For $500 a month, maybe. Well, there's 10 remaining. There's a limit. Only 10 people can get the $500 a month. Anyway, so yeah, guys, the Shuttle Pod show unfortunately appears dead. Decon Chamber is where it is now. So check it out. And again, if you had become a Patreon of the Shuttle Pod show, you're going to need to go ahead and cancel it yourself, because the people in charge of the Shuttle Pod show are not going to cancel it for you. So I don't know. It's debatable whether what they're doing is moral or not. I had wished they would have given us a heads up that this new show was starting, and given us all a chance to to migrate over if we so chose, but maybe that's a bit too much. I don't know. I don't like it. That's all I can say is that I don't like the way things ended. And if you want to read the details, if you Google search Reddit and Shuttle Pod Show, you'll find people talking about what really happened. Okay, so it's May 31st, 2024, and it is National Macaroon Day. Yeah, that means about as much as you need to know right there. Not a whole lot of days today. Autonomous Vehicle Day, somewhat interesting. European Neighbors Day. Invite over your neighbors to a nice meal and get to know your community. National Fisher Folks Day. Grab a bucket and a fishing rod to celebrate National Fish Folk Day in the Philippines. National Heat Awareness Day. The health holiday cannot get any hotter. Keep it cool on Heat Awareness Day. National Heat Awareness Day. National Save Your Hearing Day. And Better Hearing and Speech Month on a high note, but at a lower volume. Yeah, too many people, you have your headphones in and sounds get loud all of a sudden. Hello world, and like, oh shit, now I'll be deaf. It's National Smile Day. Flash your pearly whites with a smile bigger than the Grand Canyon. What? I don't know. Sometimes I think too many teeth make for less attraction. I'd rather not see teeth. I'd rather not see teeth. National Speak in Complete Sentences Day. Scrap those short form words. It's time for National Complete Sentences Day. Those are complete sentences.
I
know. National Utah Day. Let's celebrate the 45th state to gain statehood in the U.S. Speaking of bees, National Utah, the bee is like the state insect, and the state bird of Utah is the bee. It's got a beehive. It's got a big old beehive on the state flag. Anyway, it is also Necrotizing Fasciitis Awareness Day. This day creates awareness of this disease, which is also known as flesh-eating bacteria. It's Flesh-Eating Bacteria Day. Wow. What else could you see? What else can we sneak in? Oh, it's Web Designer Day. It's time for web users to celebrate the brilliant minds who work tirelessly behind the scenes. I would venture to say, if you're working tirelessly to be a web designer, you picked the wrong field. What you think upon grows day. flip that negativity upside down and look at the brighter side of life. It's what you think upon grows day. Huh. It's World No Tobacco Day. Beat the bad habit and say no to tobacco. Say yes to tobacco. And finally, it's World Parrot Day. It's time to get chatty with our little feathered friends on World Parrot Day. Parrots are beautiful birds, right? I mean, just look at the colors. Look at the colors on this thing. And then somebody's like, let's take this beautiful bird out of the jungle and we're going to put it in a little cage in our office just so we can look at it. And then to what must have been their ridiculous surprise, this bird that's been in their office cage starts talking to them. What would you do if you were the first human to hear a bird start talking to you? What would you do? Would you tell your friends? Or would you be like, if I tell my friends, they're going to think I'm a witch. And they're going to say, I know how to talk to animals. Maybe I really do need to be burned at the stake. Or like the first scientist who was like, oh, shit, did I just hear this bird talk to me? Am I crazy now? I'm curious, like, how long did it take? How many people burned before they're like, oh shit, I hear it too? Arabic asks, did they talk about his trip to space, meaning William Shatner's? Yes, they did. And I'm going to be honest, Arabic, I was getting sick. I was getting a little sick at Shatner talking about his trip to space because he was lying. Or here's the thing. He's 97 years old, right? I don't know if he's lying or he's just misremembering. Okay? Clearly, he might think he saw something that he didn't. Because he's talking about how he gets to see the Earth as a little rock in space. But he did not. At no time was his rocket ever up by the moon. Okay? He never got to see Earth as a little rock. When he looked out the window, the Earth still took up the entire horizon. He was never high enough to see a little rock of Earth in space. You had to get, 2 days away and get to the moon to look back and be able to see the Earth in the distance. All right. They were nowhere near that distance. They didn't even get up as high as the space station. The space station, you can barely see the curvature you can see it, but it's barely there. Where he was, and he was looking outside this window, and he keeps trying to say he saw this little rock of a planet, and he's trying to make like, oh, that was this whole thing, that this big emotional thing to him. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's a wonderful vision to have. he didn't have it. And I'm sorry. That's just it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. Richie Poole says, no, Erica. Well, you see, Richie, Erica is the wife of Mark. I don't know how Mark ever landed Erica, but damn, good for him. Good for him. But the problem they had is supposedly with Mark. Now, Mark and I have had a couple of chats on Twitter and whatnot, and I spoke to him. I spoke to him on Zoom calls a little bit. He knows of me. He knows of my channel, but I wouldn't consider him a friend. I don't really know anything about him that somebody else hasn't told me, except from watching him. He was quite good at Star Trek trivia. I invited him to Jep Nerdy. I invited him to Jep Nerdy several times, but he, his schedule, I guess, didn't work out. Although he certainly has nothing, as far as I know. He could have found some time now, although the official word is that he had to start working on another project to keep the bills being paid or something. So I don't know, but it would have been nice. Would have been nice that he's dropped by once to Jep Nerdy. Resolute Germ says it's a hell of a start to a new podcast. You just got them a new sub. Oh, thank you, Resolute. And Arabic says, I just subbed too. And there's the link. There's the link to the Decon Chamber podcast. Stanley says, any skid? No, nothing you want to watch. Maybe in the second half of the Terry Farrell interview, but not so much yet. JP says, what kind of bullshit is Fisher, folks? It's Fisherman, damn it. Melted Copper says, happy Friday. Bird, God bless, live long and prosper. Thank you, Melted Copper. JP's says, oh, I liked her vertical smile. Resolute Germ says it's not for fishermen, it's for mermaids. Lowell and JP says F, no tobacco day. Roxanne says, well now, greetings, Columbus, Ohio. Did you make it to Columbus, Rock Solid? JP says parrots are the creepiest effing birds ever. Melted Copper says, I quit tobacco. Now I smoke lots of weed instead, while gloating my win against tobacco. And Mike Richards welcomes Rock Solid. JP says, I'd eat that damn bird quicker than hell. JP's, not JP's, yeah, JP's, says, I'd eat the bird quicker than hell. Resolute Germ says, beautiful bird, but they are real bastards, always ratting on you and the wife, to the wife. Hakeem says, burn it, it must be evil. JP says, it's going to stop talking real quick. Stanley says Romulans. They'll have to be on the moon. Even the ISS sees only slight curvature. Exactly. Exactly. So having Shatner talk about this ball is like, and you know, they're not going to press him. I guess, you know, nobody will. The guy's 97 years old. And he's going to be like, did you go to space? No. Like, then he was like, then shut the fuck up. Stanley says, and they weren't goofing. They weren't going nearly as fast enough to interest the Vulcans. That's true. JP says Shatner probably has glaucoma, and it looked like a little rock. Resolute, give him a break. Shatner was high at the time. How was he supposed to remember little details? I suppose. Although apparently, one of the guys that went with him died. One of the guys that was on the rocket ended up dying a couple of weeks later. He had flown in. He was a private pilot, but he wasn't, he didn't have his instrument ratings yet. So he could only fly in good weather. So he was going, when he got home, he was going to get his instrument rating. So he was flying his plane, and there was an instructor on board, but they cover, to do your instrument rating, they cover your head with this this helmet or something. So you can only see the instruments, and you can't see the, you know, what's out in front of you. And you have somebody on board who's there to presumably watch out for the both of you. But for whatever reason, he lost control of the plane, and they both died. Him and his person. So yeah, it was very tragic. Shatner spoke about that. So that's the kind of thing, like, yeah, it's sad and it's interesting, but I didn't need to waste my day hearing about that. I wanted to hear about Star Trek. Stanley Bird, is this from the YouTube Shatner interview? Have you seen Call Me Bill? I don't know if I've seen Call Me Bill yet, Stanley. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of things Shatner has done. I'll have to check, but no, this is not Call Me Bill. This is just an hour with these people, mostly talking about horses. Stanley says, I get bored with him repeating his philosophies about everything, sacred animals, etc. Yeah, I mean, this was clearly a lot about his philosophies. Arabic Sonder says, no kissing Dax, no kissing Dax. Maybe we could get them to kiss again. Stan Lee says, Melted Copper, I had to switch to vaping for like a year when I quit cigarettes. Every time I smoked a joint, I had serious cravings for a cigarette, says Stan Lee. Melted Copper was no joke. The cigarette, we used to joke a cigarette after a joint would increase your buzz by 10%. Arabic Sonder is laughing. And he says, I can just hear Shatner saying, did you go to space? Yeah. JP says, plastic garbage bag. Stanley says, do those Amazon spaceships even need pilots? I don't think there's pilots. Stanley says, do they just land with parachutes? Yes. Was he a pilot for Karoga Airlines? No, Mike Richards, the astronaut who unfortunately passed away was not a pilot for Karoga Airlines. He was way overqualified. Stanley says, I just don't quite trust a rocket bought on Amazon. Hope it had at least 5 stars. JP says, wow, that must have sucked, crashing your plane during the IFR test. Hello. Stanley says, Mike Richards, you mean Karogan Kamikaze Airlines. I had this shirt as a kid. I don't know why, but it was red, white, and blue. It was the most patriotic sweater you've ever fucking seen. I used to love wearing it. But for whatever reason, it said kamikaze. Do you remember the shirt, Mom? It was like 3rd grade. I was curious if you remembered the shirt. No, it's okay. It was this very patriotic red, white, and blue like sweater. I used to wear it around 3rd grade. It said kamikaze on it though. Yeah, I have no idea why it was kamikaze. But I took it and I wore it on picture day. So like we've got pictures of me. We've got pictures of me somewhere. But I have no idea why it said kamikaze on it. We got it maximum. Of course, we got all my clothes at that store. Yeah. No. Those clothes you got it here. The parrot's colors are starting to remind me of some countries' flags, says Arabic. Stanley says, Mike Richards, never trust an airline that only sells one-way tickets. Stanley says, it's World Parrot Day. Parrots are beautiful birds. Clip its wings so it can't fly away. Stanley says, Bird of Prey 5, they live for like 100 years. Yeah, that's the other thing. They live longer than the people taking care of it. You're supposed to pet birds, but Stanley says you're supposed to, but pet birds in your will because they often outlive their owners. Yes, put birds in your will. And they probably got all your secrets. And they're probably going to talk about them when you're gone. Lowell, red, white, and blue, and said kamikaze. That is comical. To this day, I have no idea why it's said in big letters. In big letters, like Stanley says, I think Shatner is known to sort of exaggerate occasionally. Well, I guess that would have to be it. Stanley says, yeah, those trips are barely even officially in space. It looks like the Romanian flag, the Arabic Sonda. Yeah, it's a nice bird. It's a nice bird. So let's do a quick check at the Google News. Rigged. It's all rigged. Let's see. More northern lights could be visible. Let's see. Serial killer dies after an assault in prison. Wow. Why Detmer and Owo were missing from Star Trek Season 5, explained by showrunner. They were busy, and they were there at the end, so they weren't missing. Um, 10 Star Trek concepts that will probably never actually happen. Warp drive, transporters, pretty much anything with Discovery. Star Trek, a beacon of imagination and ingenuity, has been lauded for its visionary depiction of the future, its array of technological marvels, and sci-fi fiction, tangible reality. However, amid the myriad of inventions that have leapt from our screens into our lives, there exists a cadre of Star Trek innovations that, due to the constraints of current scientific understanding and technology capabilities, seem destined to remain ensconced within the realm of pure fantasy. As we explore 10 Star Trek concepts that will probably never actually happen, we delve into realms of fast and light travel, teleportation, and other phenomenon that captive our imagination. Okay. Warp drive. Yes. Transporters. Yep. They're not happening. Holodecks. Oh, yeah. That's not going to happen. Replicators. We're getting close. Universal translators. Fuck yeah. Universal translators are happening. Subspace communicators. Probably not. Force fields. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get force fields. Synthahol. Yes. We'll get fake alcohol. A Vulcan mind meld is not technology. Stupid. And Genesis? Genesis device? Well, they already did Genesis. It was made by Sega, and you could play Sonic the Hedgehog on it. Other than that, I don't think we're going to get a torpedo that can create life in 6 hours. Okay. And let's go ahead and get to Dear Bop. We got one old Dear Bop hanging out here at the end of the week. Stanley says they get 0G momentarily, but it's at the very edge of where space starts. Well, the 0G only happens when they start falling back towards Earth. That's why you get the 0G. It's not the 0G isn't because you never get far away from Earth that you get away from Earth's gravity. I mean, you barely, people up on the space station, it's not that they're in 0G. They're only in 0G because they're falling faster than they're moving past the Earth. That's what orbit is. And the the Amazon rocket, it falls to Earth, but it's not quite fast enough. You know, it's going a little faster than the planet is moving. So it takes a little longer to get down, but that's it. JP says, I'll give you Northern Lights wherever you want. There already is fake alcohol. Richie Bull says, Dear Bob, Bradley Briggs says, from what I've heard, traveling faster than light would get us there, but we would age the amount of time it would have taken to get there at like impulse speeds. That sounds about right. Arabic Santa says it's called O'Doul's or something like that. Well, that's alcohol-free beer, but there's got to be an alcohol. One day they'll have a fake alcohol that tastes like alcohol, but doesn't have the side effects of alcohol. Stanley says, JP's, that's what I was thinking, are those zero alcohol mocktails. The other fake alcohol is called Zima. I don't think it's that fake. JP says, sure, something like that. Stanley says, yeah, orbit is just falling, but far and fast enough away to just keep falling. Stanley, so it's more of like what you get when the vomit comet, like, exactly. Thomas Bott says, fact, Kurogan rockets don't fall to Earth. They don't even get off the ground. One little mistake. Anyway, Dear Bob. Dear Bob, what is the thermostat set to in the great state of Karoga? Well, if you mean the weather machine, 76 and sunny. That's the ideal temperature. If you mean my thermostat in the house, 74 degrees. Although I would really, really wish one day they can make a thermostat that did 0.5 degrees. Because sometimes 74 is too cold. Sometimes 74 is too warm. I just wish I could do 73.5 or 74.5. Anyway, oh, we've got another Dear Bob. Okay, one more Dear Bob. Dear Bob, tricks are for kitty, silly man. Tricks are for kitty. Tricks. Tricks are for kitty, silly man. I know what tricks are. Humble Price's tricks are for kids. Tricks is cereal. And another Dear Bob came in. Dear Bob, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Because they make up everything. They don't make up dark matter. JP says, I wish my thermostat would go below 66.
I'm sitting here with a blanket on.
Oh,
long
Mama,
sleeve.
Mama Bray sitting with a blanket on and long sleeves and socks. And she's cold. I'm sorry, Mama Bray. I'm a terrible son.
No. Getting old.
Bradley Briggs is a friend of mine, quit alcohol with fake beer, talking about a man who was literally killing himself with beer every day. He's been clean now over 9 months. That's wonderful, Bradley Briggs. That is wonderful indeed. Okay, guys, thank you all so much for hanging out. We're going to call it a day today. And I see what's going on. I am trying to get through the Star Trek Discovery episodes. I know I still have several left to go. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do it or not. It's kind of seems hopeless at this point as to why. Maybe I figure something else out, something more productive with my time. But thank you all for hanging out. Kapla all, and bird out.